Welcome back to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber, and we have a special guest here today from BendPak, Lee Franklin, who is the program manager working on some cool new products for the EV space.
Thanks for having me, Pete. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Fix your mic, it's in your shirt.
Is it? Okay. The picture that you see behind us, one of our traditions here is we always have a cool picture. This is actually the BendPak facility in Santa Paula, California. Beautiful area in around Thousand Oaks. And the building, one of the buildings that you see there is, I guess, a 70,000 square foot warehouse that was built in 2017. So BendPak has done some expansion. Those of you unfamiliar with BendPak, they are the world's leading supplier of automotive lifts and auto shop products. So, Lee, tell us a little bit about the history of BendPak and what we're doing.
Well, BendPak, it has a fascinating story because it started out 50 plus years ago, and as you know, being a CEO and having a large corporation, to be around that long, we're talking about maybe less than 1%, less than I think 0.5% of organizations out there that are able to last that long. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a small one. So to be able to pivot and keep a company really succeeding and being innovative like they are,
and continuing
it's fascinating.
to grow.
My gosh.
Which is something else, adding new product lines, which we're going to get into, by the way, why BendPak is here with Gruber Motor Company.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating story. The CEO, or the emeritus now, the chairman, he started the company 50 plus years ago, and it started out, with pipe benders, and that's where the BendPak came from. And then our current president and CEO, he's been with the company now, I think, 4 decades. And so they really just kind of built this thing together. And as a result of that, bringing all these different products, so there's several different brands. They've got these beautiful products. And Jeff Kritzer, who's my president and CEO, has been right there with Don, the chairman and the founder of the company. And they've just been building this beautiful pyramid of products, and it's just fascinating to be there. I love that company.
I did a bit of research. 1965 is when they were founded. Called themselves QMA, or Quality Machine and Associates.
Yeah.
And back then, Don Henthorn, in fact, if you guys want to go to the website, BendPak, there's a picture of Don, and he's a young man,
Yeah.
But did a lot of work for the aerospace industry out there, Rocketdyne, Rockwell, and Hughes Aircraft. And in 1979, they began developing hydraulic tubing benders, like I mentioned. Now tell us, what were they bending? What kind of tubing?
Well, just it can be anything, right? It could be for pipes for exhaust systems, or
automotive,
running fluid from one place to another. So essentially, and so,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing. And again, this goes back to innovation, where Don had been right there on the pointy end of the spear, and as he led that industry, kind of like what we're going to talk about today, which is the EV battery lift, being right there on the front end of it is what has made BendPak successful over the years, because they kind of lead these industries and push them forward. So it's a fascinating story.
What I find is successful companies that have been around a long time typically listen to the market, and they are able to adapt. I'll give you a quick example here. We bought a building here in the neighborhood. Clamp Nails was their name, and they made a nail for coffins and banisters, and it was a special type of nail. It was a fairly wide nail. The current owner at the time was 4th generation. They started in 1917.
Oh my gosh.
And been around forever, right? And the reason that they finally closed down was because the 4th generation owner said, well, you know what? The Chinese came in and they took our market, cost-wise.
Sure.
I heard that. I didn't dispute it. The problem there is, we have the same thing with our comm products. Yeah, you're always going to have external competition, but your gift is, in a company, your customer base.
Right. Absolutely.
So what you end up doing is, if there's a less expensive product in the market, you align with that and you offer both, which is what we do in our comm product. A lot of customers need American-made, especially government.
Sure, absolutely.
So we have a big production group here that continues to grow that makes American-made. but we also have offshore product.
Sure, absolutely. And that's kind of what's really neat about BendPak is, being around as long as they have been, you might think that, a company might, I wouldn't say stall, but slow down a little bit in its evolution. But what's fascinating is Don now, even though he's now essentially chairman emeritus, he still continues to push technology. That's a big part of it. So even though he may come from a different generation, he still wants to be there, whether it's social media or whether it's using products that have a lot of technology in them. That's still where the company pushes to be. Yeah.
So he remains involved, and it sounds like he's having fun.
Every day, every day he comes in at 6 o'clock. He beats 95. The only people that he may not beat are the people that are working with the customers on the East Coast. But he comes in first. He stays. Has a great relationship with the employees, and it's fun to see him.
That's a heartwarming
around there
story.
every day. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So the reason the BendPak came to us is we're of course an EV shop, and we're the first really large commercial EV shop on the planet. And there will be many more. We'll have that distinction a brief while longer. But eventually every auto shop in the world is going to have to pivot and convert to being able to repair electric vehicles. Since we're pioneers, we find that we have to build a lot of our own tooling and test equipment, and because it's not off the shelf. You can't go to Amazon and buy what we need. Well, it turns out that BendPak was also working on custom tooling for the EV market. And maybe you can tell us about the product that actually Lee developed for the EV market that we are now testing and collaborating with.
Well, I think it's really interesting because that's a great segue because, yes, when we talk about the EV4000, which is the EV battery lift that we're going to discuss a little bit more, but it's fascinating and why Jeff was so excited about being able to work with you. It's because for you to be as successful as you have been in your industry, it has required you to conceptualize products and solutions so that you can do your job. And that's kind of where we were at too with the EV4000 is our CEO, Jeff, his whole approach to this thing was, there's other companies out there that want to get into this industry, in the EV battery lift industry, but they're not there. And we need to get there first. But the thing about that, what makes it a little bit challenging is his approach to this endeavor has been, we start from the bottom, ground up, everything is custom, everything is built the best quality, and that's what it took to get us where we're at right now. And that's a fantastic thing because as competitors come along and look, what they're essentially doing is they're repurposing, drivetrain tables and whatnot, and then they put an EV battery lift label on it, and we don't do that. And so when I see your beautiful shop and I look at the innovation that you have to be able to work on those beautiful roadsters, that's all custom, right? And so that's what's so exciting for us. So when Jeff came in and looked at your shop, it was just really inspiring because a lot of times when we're working through this thing, it's really hard, as right? You're trying to build things and you're trying to be, as aggressive and innovative as you can. And like I said, it's exciting to be able to work with somebody like you guys. And
well, I think what your company is doing is brilliant because it's in the application that you learn how to design this product. And Lee is the actual creator of this EV4000 battery lift.
But there's a huge team that makes us successful, right? The engineers, the CEO is an incredible, technical guy and the marketing guy. So, I'm involved. We'll just say that.
So the most impressive thing about Lee, and he's very passionate about this lift, by the way. He came out with the lift, and he began to show us some of these design enhancements and things that he put into, and his team put into this lift. Tell us about a few of those enhancements and those innovative new things in this scissor lift.
Oh yeah. So that's the other thing about it is, as we looked at competition, right? We have to use that term because that's what inspires organizations, right, to move, past them. And so for us, everything that we looked at, Jeff's approach was, okay, what do they use, and for this? Like we'll talk about the triple casters, right? Which is fascinating to me. I love it because other companies and lift companies, they'll have like a single caster that spins. It's got a big wheel, and so
Let me expound on that for just
Okay.
a moment, because we actually built some of our own battery gurneys, as we called them.
Right. Yeah.
And what we ended up using was we needed a large surface, so we used uninterruptible power system cabinets, since one of our businesses here repairs and refurbishes those, and not everyone makes it back in the field, so we end up scrapping cabinets. Well, these were heavy enough since they handle 5,000 pounds of batteries inside.
Right.
We would lay them horizontally. We then welded, like you said, single wheels, 4 of them, and then we had a flat surface for the battery to sit on. Well, I remember when you guys first came out with Jeff, the president of BendPak, and he looked at our stuff and he says, "You're going to like our battery lift. You're really going to like this."
Yeah.
And so anyway, we are going from the dark ages with our innovative first attempt to something that Lee is going to describe to you and some of the features and benefits in this lift.
Yeah, so like we're talking about the triple casters, right? That's the other thing too that makes BendPak so special. For lack of a better term, that cross-functional industrial solutions, right? And so
what does this triple caster do for you, though? I mean, why is it important compared to a single wheel?
yeah, absolutely. So what had happened is if you're running on a single wheel and you hit a bolt and you've got a huge battery on it.
1,200-pound battery
That's
pack,
right.
yeah.
And you hit a bolt, that thing is going to stop essentially on a dime. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous for the guys, it's dangerous for the battery. And so what we did, and this goes back to kind of that cross-functional industrial solutions, is Jeff obviously is like, we've got to figure out how that doesn't happen. Well, the triple caster essentially has a single plate, but it has 3 different casters on each corner. And so as a result of that, if you happen to hit a bolt or a nut that would normally stop a single caster lift, essentially all it does, it rolls around the nut or bolt, and it just keeps going. And so that's really a neat thing. And what was interesting about it is that as I was researching this and looking at it, there's companies out there that used this triple caster for movie cameras.
yeah. Okay.
So they have to move cameras around and they can't afford for it to be jerky and whatnot, so they would use these triple casters. And that was one of those things where it's like, this is a perfect application. Has nothing to do with automotive lifts.
Right.
Let's just build them so they're super sturdy and use that application here. And that's kind of the approach we've used with everything. We find something that maybe not be in the automotive industry and say, this is going to be a perfect application, and then we use it.
So one of the challenges we have with these 1,200-pound batteries in the Model S or the 1,000-pound in the Tesla Roadster, for example, or even the Model X 1,200-pound battery packs, is you have the car up on a lift, you have to somehow unbolt it and then set it on something so that you can maneuver it out from under there and work on the battery pack, open it up and work on it. When you put that battery pack back up inside there, oftentimes you have alignment issues.
Absolutely.
You have some cool design features in that EV4000 lift that solve the alignment problems. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just throw the Tesla word around a little bit here.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
we had an opportunity to work with Tesla on 1.5 years of developing this. And we got a chance to see the hardest part for them to be able to, to get these things, the batteries out of the car, safely and efficiently. And so having gone to their R&D space and looked at what their problems were, it was almost a no-brainer, right, when we started trying to figure out how to solve these. So like a good example is, and you know this, when the battery goes up and it gets ready to seat inside the car, it needs to be level with the car. Well, not all shop floors are level, right? So the great thing about it is you can roll it up underneath the car, and then down where the casters are at, right, there's these leveling jacks, and you have one of your peers that are up there, and he's looking, goes like, bring the right corner up, a quarter of an inch. So by the time it's all said and done, it's literally, you can have this thing within a 32nd of an inch. And so it's like precision mounting. So not only, is it a smooth transition up, but once you get to a certain point, the guys can put it exactly, level as they want it to be.
And having used it on all four corners, we've got a little wheel with a handle, and you can, like you say, within very tight tolerances, actually do an adjustment and completely level out that table.
Yeah, perfect.
Now, hold that thought, because we have more design features in this lift that we need to talk about regarding the alignment. We've got a few questions that are coming in now, so we probably need to address those. It looks like TikTok from Azorian Crypto. Hi, I'm here from the Azores Islands. Well, welcome. Hopefully you guys already have EVs there, or you will get some. The whole planet is going that way. Then we've got a YouTube question from Steve Rose. He's one of our normal audience members. Welcome, Steve. Greetings from Boulder City, Nevada. Then we've got TikTok, Jason DeFoss from Canada. Again, one of our regular audience members. He's greeting us, saying good morning from Canada. And a YouTube question from Steve Rose. He says, can you get Lee? Oh, you've already done it. All right.
I'm reading.
He's there with us.
Him.
That is part of our tradition here. Everybody wears sunglasses. So Lee was beginning to tell us about the design features of this lift and the leveling. We've got the bottom leveling nailed down now and described. What about the top?
Well, that too, you may hear me say the word fascinating, because fascinating and innovative, those are my words, and it's not because of me. Mostly it's because of Jeff, because as we think through this and his history of 40 years being at BendPak, right, so one of the products that's out there, right, you have these alignment, lifts and stuff like that, right? So you need to be able to move the car around, and it is precision movement. Right. Well, as we were looking through this, we started out with the first generation where the lift would go up, and we would be able to use the leveling jacks and get it level. But then when I went to Tesla, what we noticed is they would, using their tables, where you know this, they drop the car onto the table, which we've all moved away from that now. And then they would have to really work hard and go up and down with the car to try to get the battery to seat. And so
because we had lateral alignment issues, it had to go forward, backward, side to side,
right.
And they actually used to use pins that they would try to level.
Yeah, they'd move it around to try to get it, and then they would damage the electroconnectors and whatnot. And so we got to the point where we could level it, but then the next thing came. How do we, again, we've really focused on ergonomics, focused on making the technicians as effective as they can be and efficient, right? And so the big part of that was, okay, now that we've got the battery up, it's right underneath the car, how do we allow the technician to, get this done safe and quickly? And that's where the whole thing came in with the slip plate. So the slip plate sets on top of the EV battery lift table, and underneath there are these slip plates, assemblies that when the plate sets up on top of these assemblies, they're discs that have little Teflon balls inside of them, and it allows you to move the top table, which is the battery, right, by just as small a measure as you want. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that's super exciting for us because nobody did that before us.
So we're talking about ball bearings, basically, and sitting on the table, which allows in lateral movement to go through a variety of different positions and perfect alignment. Very important in the EV world, because if you miss that step and you don't align properly, here's what the downside is. You have cooling tubes that are not self-aligning, but actually have to mate.
Right.
And then you have two connectors. You have a CAN bus connector and you have your high voltage connections. And those are pins. And if your alignment is off, you're going to mash those sockets, and now you've got a huge expense on your hands. Right. Either you have to repair the wiring harness in the car, or you have a battery repair that you have to do.
Right.
So alignment is absolutely essential with these batteries. And of course, the other thing is moving something that's 1,200 pounds is quite a feat. So having a slip plate or slip table like this that allows that kind of fine precision movement is quite an engineering feat.
Well, and that's the thing that was really neat in working with the Tesla R&D team, is that when you initially walk in, obviously you're having conversations about what their issues are, right? And that was one of the issues. And it was very interesting that as the development of the lift progressed, the little things that they would say left the conversation, right? So it would show up, and now we've got the slip plate on, and now we're not talking about damaging connectors anymore, which was a huge point for them. They wanted to make sure that I heard that like 100 times while I'm there, and then after we go back, now we're not having conversations about bent adapters because it doesn't happen anymore. Right. So that's really fun to watch, the development of a product, and being able to cater to a customer's needs.
Now, we work with a lot of the Tesla service centers, and because we do similar work, we share tech tips with them, we collaborate with them, especially on the older Tesla stuff like the Roadsters. But I can be a testimonial for you, and those of you out there watching in the Tesla world, you're going to love this BendPak EV4000 lift. Because of its versatility, and it seems to be specifically made for working on these heavier battery packs. Now, let's talk about weight for a moment. We've got 1,200 pounds in the Model S, 1,000 pounds in a Roadster. This lift is capable of 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, and we're super excited about that as well, because the lift, when we first started working on it, we were really focused on the Tesla cars themselves. And so we were working towards that to make sure that we could certify our lift to that point. And then the more that we looked at the industry, because we don't have a crystal ball, but we like to think that, with the Tesla Semi coming out or the big vehicles that have the larger batteries, it's like, well, we can't go back. We don't want to go back and re-engineer. We want to be able to do this in the here and now, and be visionaries about it. And so that's what Jeff said, is like, we need to get this thing certified so that we can be working with the 1,000 pound, the 1,200, and the 4,000 pound battery. And so that's really exciting to share, because we just got our certification to grow from the 2,400 to the 4,000. So it's exciting for me. We were, working hard on this and got it done. So it's a lot of fun.
Very cool. So then, raising and lowering the lift, you were also showing us that there is a design feature in there regarding different weights and the adjustment for speed.
Right. Yeah. So again, this goes back to what you were talking about, whether you have a Roadster battery, an S-Class, or the big pickup that Tesla has, the different sizes.
Or GM for that matter.
Absolutely.
With that Hummer, that's going to be a big battery.
Absolutely. And so the thing about it is that initially, right, there's things that qualify lifts as far as safety is concerned. So we really put a lot of effort in making sure the lift is safe. So the pistons for the lift, they have orifices in them so that if you have a hose break, you don't have to worry about the lift collapsing, onto a person. But the other part of it is, we noticed that it was really, really important to the customer is that you could have, the term I use is soft landings every single time. And so by using throttle control valves, right, we can go get a 4,000 pound battery and lay it down as if you're laying a feather on, on a mattress, and then you adjust the throttle control valve, flow control valve, and the battery may be, 3 times lighter, whereas if you had that throttle control valve, it would come down too slow. So you adjust that, and then you can still have the battery come down in a timely manner so that the tech can continue to be effective and efficient but at the same time, when it lands again, whether it's 1,000 or 4,000, lands very soft. And that's something that's really important to the customer.
Definitely a great design feature. I remember when Lee first came out, he was showing us that little flow control valve. And yeah, like he was saying, you can have it come down rapidly, or you can throttle it and come down slowly.
Yeah.
And there's always a soft landing, because you don't want that 1,200 pounds, hitting hard.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Even if it doesn't damage anything over that certain, decibel level where it goes conk, it's unnerving. It's unnerving for the person that's working with it. And so that's the whole point, is just make it so that the tech is comfortable and knows that no matter what happens, that nothing happens as far as no damage happens to the battery.
Right.
So.
Now, we've been talking about EV batteries and how the Lift is very versatile and innovative in terms of design for allowing the transfer of the batteries. Drivetrains is another EV service need. And drivetrains are the equivalent of the engine, basically, because you have the three-phase AC induction motor, and then you have an inverter next to it, and then you have a transaxle in the middle, and you're talking about some weight. Drivetrains need to come out of EVs at times for a variety of reasons, to service the motor, to service the inverter, or to service even things as simple as the motor mounts. One of the things that this EV4000 has is a number of accessories that come with it. And yesterday we actually used some of those. Maybe you can tell us about those arms we put in place and how that works.
Yeah, the adapters themselves, so I'll go back just for 1 second. For me, why it's so exciting to come visit somebody like you that's kind of on the leading edge of something like this is because as we're building these things and conceptualizing them, the only thing that we're limited by is our own, the term I like to use is gray matter, right? So to be able to come out here, you have different ways. Like, I wasn't even thinking about the drivetrain. I want to get that battery out of the car. I want it to be safe. And then you're like, well, what about this, Lee? Now I have a different thought. And so, yeah, the adapters, you can use them for the drivetrains, or you can use them for whatever you want. And that's the thing, is that, yes, the EV4000 is built for the electric vehicle, but at the same time, say you're in a shop that has dual purpose, where they're working on conventional vehicles or they're working on EVs, we've built this in such a way so that they can do whatever they want with any kind of vehicle.
So basically anything heavy that's in the vehicle that needs to come out or go back up in there could be adapted or could be used with this EV4000
Oh,
table.
absolutely. And we've built a number of different adapters where it could be a battery or a drivetrain, or it could be a transmission on a conventional vehicle, and it works just the same. Very smooth. So as you know, I'm sure when you go to put a transmission in a car, right, and you're jostling and doing this and trying to get it in, you essentially, again, alleviate that because of the balance of the lift and the slip plate. And so, oh yeah, I mean, that's what's fun for me, is visiting places like this that are innovative and say, Lee, that's kind of cool, but what do you think about doing this? And I'm like, give me your ideas, Pete. I want to know what you're thinking. So that's the fun part.
I could have used your product when I was working on my '69 Plymouth Roadrunner.
Right?
4-speed transmission, Hurst shifter, right? And I didn't have any fancy equipment. This was like 20, 30 years ago. I remember getting up under that car on a creeper, and I actually laid that transmission on my chest and then moved it out underneath the car to do the rebuild on it. But yeah, that table that you have would have come in handy. It looks like we've got a bunch more questions. Why don't we entertain some of those? It looks like YouTube, Chris Barker, hello from Kensington, Maryland. Welcome, Chris. Then we've got a TikTok visitor, Bill Wood again, just like an air hockey game. There we go.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the inspiration. TikTok, Smuggler, he's a regular visitor. He got the memo on the sunglasses. Yes, thank you guys for reminding us that this is a sunglass type podcast. TikTok, Smuggler liked the live 1,000 times. Excellent, okay. And then YouTube, Steve Rose, can we see a picture of the EV4000? Jesse, I'm talking to my social media team here now. Can we go to the BendPak website? There is a really cool animation video. Is it something that we could scroll up on our screen while we're talking about this product?
If I can find it later.
Okay. BendPak, and
I'm on their website now. We know what page?
It's on the YouTube channel, on our BendPak YouTube channel, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Should be the very last video that we put up.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think our audience will be able to relate a whole lot more to everything that we're talking about once we can get that video up.
So now, Pete, if you don't
Yeah.
mind me asking a question, you know my story. You know, what's your story? Because we see the podcast with us, but you're kind of a humble guy, and we don't get to see, and hear about your story.
Sure. Fair question. I've been in electronics all my life, even as a kid. I worked for some computer companies like Digital Equipment, repairing mainframes, and eventually left Digital to start Gruber Associates, which was originally targeted to design and build computer rooms, data centers. And that grew. And again, as I said earlier, if you're listening to the market, you can grow. And we began to add divisions. We started servicing critical power equipment in computer rooms. We began manufacturing products that go in computer rooms. Today, Gruber makes products for all of the major data centers, from cabinets to racks, patch panels, fiber optic cable assemblies. What got us into the EV space, however, was in 2014 or so, I bought a Tesla Roadster because I wanted to go green and have a 100% battery electric vehicle as a daily driver. It took me a year to figure out that the technology inside that car is identical to the critical power business, which is a three-phase inverter. Battery system, three-phase inverter, the difference is what it powers. One powers a bunch of servers in a computer room, the other one powers the propulsion motor in a car. The way I found that out was a field engineer came by my car one day as I was taking my lunch out, and he said, "What's the black box in the back of your car?" I said, "That's an inverter." He says, we repair those. And I don't know why that paradigm shift didn't occur much sooner, but it did. And again, listening to the market, I went out and hired a guy that claimed he could fix Tesla Roadsters, and we saw the technology was so similar it was painful. And we started to fix Tesla Roadsters, and the next thing you know, people in the Roadster community, at least, which is what all of Tesla was in the early days, began to realize that there's an alternative to Tesla repair organizations. And we repair right down to component level rather than replacing stuff, which is less expensive.
Well, I'll tell you what's fascinating for me is that when I walked around your facility and I saw those beautiful cars, people will send you cars from Europe, from all over the world, because they know you're the preeminent, repair facility for fixing them. And their whole thought process is, I'll leave it there as long as it takes. And it could be, 1 month, and it could be 1 year. And they're like, I don't care, I want it done right, which is super, fascinating for me.
Some of them are tough repairs, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they spend some time here. The problem with the Roadster, the first generation Teslas, is all the electronics are out of production.
Right.
So you have to fix down to component level. Otherwise, you've got a dead car. A lot of questions coming up, yes. Let's do some quick questions. Oh, look at this, TikTok, Hados, hello from New Zealand. Welcome, welcome, welcome. TikTok, Smuggler, is the plan to make adapters to fit other non-Tesla vehicles once they hit the market?
Already done.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, we've been working on this. That was the whole thing too, is that yes, we knew that we were going to get a lot of great information out of Tesla, but at the same time, we want to be in the market with all the other, EV, and everybody has it now. It doesn't matter whether it's Ford or Subaru or Kia they all have these things. And so we decided that as we were going along, we were developing the lift, the CEO go, we need this, we need this, we need this button, we need this. And that's what we've been doing along the way, so that when a customer comes to us, we already have these concepts, these ideas in play where we can, I have a fantastic fab team that somebody comes up with an idea and they can have this thing, built in a matter of 24, 48 hours, and it's painted and we're ready to go test. So that's really exciting for me.
Well, I can safely say that the EV4000 lift that we have in our shop right now can be adapted to virtually any EV that comes into our service center. So yes, they are adaptable to other vehicle platforms. Facebook, Gary Mark, hello again from Toronto. Love your online content, need further expansion for Gruber services into Canada. One of these days, as we always, we talk about this often, we'll be able to scale. But in the meantime, we're going to stay in Phoenix, Arizona at this point and continue to grow here.
Send your cars here, though.
Yeah, well, that's what people continue to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that the visitors that come to tour our facility actually daily nowadays is they look at all the license plates, and we're talking about plates from all over the USA. And out of the country, people ship us the sub-assemblies, or like the power electronics module for rebuild. Got a YouTube question from Paratosh P. Will Tesla stock go up? You know, everything goes up and down. The bears have to have their day. The bulls have their day. Think of it this way. Tesla is the largest auto manufacturer on the planet, and they did that in 10 years? Mm-hmm. And they have production capacity that is evolving and developing greater than any other auto manufacturer on the planet. So what other direction could they go? And they're also one of the richest auto manufacturers on the planet with the highest margin. That's why they were able to do these price cuts recently to clear some inventory before year end last year. I have no concerns about Tesla. TikTok, Smuggler, speaking of other manufacturer vehicles, Pete, are you planning on branching out to other EVs or just specialize in Tesla only? You know, at this point, we are waiting for the new EV manufacturers to come along, admit that they aren't able to develop their service delivery quickly enough, and they need us to outsource to us for warranty type work. That day is coming, and it's coming rapidly as more of these EVs get out there in the market. So Lee, you have other brands. I thought maybe you could talk a bit about some of those.
Oh gosh, well that's the other thing, right? I came aboard the company literally, I guess, it'll be 2 years ago next week. Okay. And the first thing that the CEO talked to me about was we had this idea. It ended up being evaporative coolers, and we have a brand called Cool Boss. And he said, I want you to build the best in the market, the very best.
We're talking about evap coolers for automotive shops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I said, well, it's going to take some time if you really want the best. And he's like, just do it, Lee. Okay. And so that's what happened. And over a 2-year period, 8,000 communications with the manufacturing partners. And we ended up where we're at right now. And it's a beautiful line. It's called Cool Boss. So if you go to coolboss.com, you'll see these things. And I mean, everything about these Cool Bosses were built with science in mind, right? So they have lights on them. So we know that technicians that are working in environments where they need to, do micro adjustments and whatnot, they need that light so that when they get in their 7th hour of the day or the 8th hour of the day, they're not just crushed because they're straining so hard to see it. Or I put a stereo system on this. Well, why would you do that? Well, that's the thing, is we know that a certain amount of noise, right, whether it's white noise or music or whatever, that background, it keeps people just a little bit unfocused, but that allows them to be focused for a longer period of time, right? So there was some science years ago where it's like, if you're interrupted, right, it takes up to 17 minutes to get yourself fully back engaged. Well, if you're just a little bit outside that realm, right, you can stay focused for a longer period of time. Or we have an air cleaning system, right? An atomizer that essentially every bit of air that comes through that cooler is clean. Right. So, and there's just so many different innovations. Geez, if we talked about that, it would take forever. But that's so fun too. Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys are watching or taking a look at the existing products and saying, how can we improve on something that's been around for many, many decades, like an evap cooler? And that's probably one of the ingredients of a successful company, is you innovate, you think out of the box, and you create something better than what has been or better than the competition.
Well, and that's the thing, is better is one thing, and Jeff's mantra is the best.
The best.
The best, which is, right, that's the difference. Like, yeah, let's improve on that. No, he's like, I want the best cooler in the market. I want the best, most innovative, EV battery lift in the market. And when you work from that vantage point,
right,
and you have that vision, you generally will get to where you want to be at. And
that's when magic happens, because you attain your goal. You did some goal setting and you met it.
Yep.
Guys, do we have that video yet for the AS4 or EV4000?
Yeah. Up there.
Okay. No, everything we've been talking about is this innovative battery lift, and what we're going to see here is a beautiful artistic rendering of how this thing works. While they're bringing that up, we've got a little bit of a pause here. Looks like we've got from TikTok, Rivian Dream. What are your thoughts on the VW ID4? You know, my thoughts on that are VW is cranking out some stellar, excellent product. And I'm very impressed with them, actually. The German manufacturers were listening carefully, and 10 years ago, they were ignoring it. And how they've been able to pivot as rapidly as they have is pretty impressive, actually. From YouTube Shorts, Paratosh P. And how is Cybertruck going to affect Tesla? Well, I think that everybody's waiting for the Cybertruck, and what we're hearing is that it might be this year, like the middle of this year, toward the end of this year. Unlike the new Tesla Roadster, which is a niche product, limited production, I think that the Cybertruck is going to get a whole lot more attention within Tesla because it is a scalable, mainstream product that everybody's waiting for. And look at all of the other incumbents that have been successful with pickup trucks, from Ford to Rivian. So there is a market for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about getting my lift up under that thing because that's one of the few vehicles I haven't been able to do yet. So that's going to be exciting.
I'm going to have you guys hold on. Don't answer questions or speak for just a second.
All right.
I have to try and add a new scene here. So.
Anyone that can hear us right now, thank you for hanging in there with us. We're going to try to bring up a EV4000 tutorial animation or video that will show in detail what we've been talking about all morning.
I don't know that I can bring it up. I would have to restart the stream.
Okay, let's just skip it then, and we'll just tell people, go to the YouTube channel, BendPak YouTube channel, find BendPak, and it's one of the most current videos that you guys have out there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a question for you guys, BendPak, all right? I was reading that you guys used to have blue lifts and then went to gunmetal gray. What was that all about? It didn't really say.
Well, that was a different brand. That was one of the early brands, Danmar, right? And there's obviously BendPak as well, but they're sister companies. And you know, the story as far as why or how it came about, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that as the lifts got better and better and more patents were applied, it was like, we want to re-enter the market again as best in class, and that was the whole thing about making a splash. And so they just, it doesn't matter where it's at. It could, you know, be on the other side of the world. When people see BendPak, they're like, yeah. So
excellent. Then there was a brand that you guys introduced, the Ranger products.
yeah, I mean, again, this goes back to, you know, the vision of Don and Jeff, and just wanting to be able to get as many products that deal with automotive, so you can give the consumer that one stop shop. And so they have the Ranger brands that have all kinds of automotive equipment, tire changers, and just I would take me forever to explain.
Again, one of the hallmarks of successful companies is looking at their customers' needs and finding solutions. And it sounds like if you guys were in the automotive space doing lifts, well, what about the air compressor? You've got that. What about the tire machines, balancers?
Parts washers.
Parts washers, there you go. Cooling, you know, the evaporators.
Cooler. Yeah, and one of the key products, right, is the Max Jack and the Quick Jack, which are these incredible, again, this goes back to Jeff, is where you put this lift, it's got a single piston up on the sides of the car, and it allows the car to just come up, and you know, enough for a maintenance guy that wants to work, you know,
or just do an inspection or
just
something,
whatever,
or just a
or at
partial
home
lift.
he wants to work on his car, and these things, when I got there, because I wasn't thinking like that. I was, you know, I'd been in the submarine force, so my mind was different, you know. And so when I saw the kind of things they were building, I was just like, I can't believe this kind of technology, this kind of innovation is coming out of, this little place in Santa Paula, California. So they really are cutting edge.
I think one of the best examples of this kind of improvement on existing product is a product that you developed, which was the ergo chair. I mean, we're talking about, creeper chairs in auto shops that have been the same design for many, many decades.
Yeah.
What inspired you to create this on steroids creeper chair combination?
Well, I wish I could take the credit, but again, we'll go back to Jeff and his vision, and again, identifying products that we know will make the automotive repair process simpler. Right, and so with that creeper, what's so special about it is, as you can lay it completely flat and work underneath the car, or as you lift it up, the seat comes up and the back comes up at the same time,
right.
So that you can work on a vehicle at any level. And so that's really special. And what we're super excited about is bringing another line for aircraft. And so what's really neat is Jeff was in the Air Force, so he has that mind too. He's got that, how do we solve issues? Well, these guys in the Air Force, they need to get up underneath these planes, and so we have some super neat chairs that they're like robot chairs, right? You grab a handle and they come way up, and it's really just...
Well, what you described to me was, a normal car creeper, you're working underneath the car,
right.
So you're basically off the floor a bit. But when you're working on an airplane, you may have to work on that engine. So you're saying that you actually have a chair that can jack up to the level of that...
It adjusts up and it lays back. So say a guy has to work underneath a wing for a long period of time, right? He can be up underneath there, laying down while he's working. Right, okay. So that's one of those things, and that we're continuing to push the envelope on, and we see that the market really wants it. So, and that's the other thing too, is if a person goes out and they type into Google creeper, they're going to get 50 of the same thing. But if you type in ergo BendPak, you're going to see that it's a completely different animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. So a couple more questions, it looks like. TikTok, KBM42299. You guys rock. Thank you, TikTok. And Smuggler, got you 4,000 likes. Well, thank you, Smuggler. And we are going to need to wrap, I think, at this point. What's our time?
I have the video, I think.
Oh, you have the video. Okay, well, we're going to show this EV4000 then.
This is actually a 2400. If that matters.
Nope, that's it. Because we had gotten the 2400 and then we just got the 4000 certification.
Yep.
So.
Does your factory give tours at all in Santa Paula?
Well, I guess we would for you.
So if they went to visit, yeah. Okay. I'd love to see it sometime. Looks like a beautiful setting. I mean, that background picture. I see some mountains back there. My sister-in-law used to live in Agora Hills near Thousand Oaks.
Oh, wow,
And
yeah.
when I got bored on a weekend there, I would go out and do garage sales in that neighborhood. And I'm telling you, there's some cool stuff there, especially in Thousand Oaks.
Well, and the culture, right? It's so diverse, right? And so we love it there.
It was a Starbucks crowd, And, they really did a nice job with all of their strip malls and shops. And,
All right, so we got the video up there.
all right, let's see what this looks like.
A little bit cut off.
Now it's fully automated. There's a switch panel that you hold. It's that yellow thing by the T handle, and it will allow you to raise and lower.
You know what I wish we had right now?
What's that?
Yesterday, when you grabbed that handle with 2 fingers and you moved the battery, 1,000-pound battery around with 2 fingers.
1,200 pounds. Yes, guys. We were doing that video, and it just it was gliding as easy as could be on those casters. We also ended up putting a bolt underneath to demonstrate the ability for those casters to obstructions. There's your leveling right there. One on each corner.
There's your foot locks. And that's really important too, because we want to make sure that the lift doesn't move at all. And right there, that's That's the safety lock. So
Safety
that
locks, yeah.
if you need to be able to keep the lift up there for a while, it just sets on that lock.
It is battery operated, charging built in.
There's your adapters we were talking about.
There
Yep.
you go. Very versatile. A lot of different things you can do there. Yeah, looks like we froze.
If you want to let everybody know, because they can't hear me, but let them know that you can watch this on their YouTube channel for a better view.
Yeah, again, their YouTube channel, BendPak, BendPak. The hyphen got dropped in I forget what the year was. See, I was doing my research.
You know a lot about BendPak.
But yeah, on their YouTube channel, there's a good video that you can watch, probably in higher detail than what we're able to show here. As far as wrapping up this show at this point, is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience?
Well, I think the thing that I want to say as we close this thing out is how impressed the BendPak family, whether it's on the marketing side or the engineering side, or me personally, how impressed we are with you and what you've done for us and the feedback you've given us. And again, you know, you have a smart company, not just a smart founder and CEO, but the people I've worked with, you know, whether it's on the media side or the engineers, are just people that bring a lot to the table. And again, I only have so much gray matter, and I'm like, oh, I like this concept and this is my idea. But when it comes to being able to work with you guys, it's a pleasure because I learn a lot when I come here too.
Well, thank you. And you know, we talk about this often when people say, well, should Elon be preoccupied with Twitter? And the point I always make is, Elon is not running those companies. There are legions of talented people in any company that are making the magic happen, and the same thing occurs here. I happen to be a figurehead because I was the first one here. But beyond that, the magic happens with all of our teams here.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. We've had a lot of fun with this.
Well, thank you for collaborating with us, and we are going to be releasing some videos on this product. We'll show the product in the shop, and so stay tuned. And if there are any further questions, as always, feel free to email us at ev@gruber.com. This recorded session will be live on YouTube shortly, probably today, right guys? So if you want to see any portions of it again, it'll be a date and time stamped with content. And again, I want to thank the BendPak team, Lee Franklin.
Thank you, Pete.
And David, who's behind the scenes there, their social media, one of their social media people. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow morning at our normal podcast time of 8:30 Mountain Standard Time, where we go back to EV-specific items.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Take care.